Hi, how you doing? And welcome back to another video on the channel. So it's the Game Week 10 preview. We're going to take a look at the mini league, who was manager of the week and who is leading overall. Then we'll take a look at my own team and how I did in Game Week 9, as well as the best captaincy options and my team selection and transfer thoughts moving forward. This video is always a bit more discussion based, not got the charts in, quite like a discussion gut feeling video once a week. And if you do enjoy it, please do subscribe, like the video. It honestly is really appreciated, all the support. So let's take a look at the manager of the week and shout out to Prismo, who got 90 points. Well, 86 if you include the 4 point hit. But what a bench boost in a game week where you would say, oh, it's a good week to have a bad week because not a lot of managers scored a lot of points. It's an even better week to have an awesome week. And this bench boost has, about over 40 points on it, which is incredible, really, for any bench boost in a single game week, nonetheless. And it's one of those weeks where you look at it and say, "Gosh, if you didn't play the bench boost, you'd be fuming, but you've absolutely nailed it." And he's gone from about 900k to about 180k in the world, and it just goes to show that the rankings are still quite close, and these big game weeks, especially when lots of other managers don't have a good game week, can really pay off. So well done. What a great use of a chip. So the overall leader is still Mark, but it wasn't a great game week. Look at Prismo playing his bench boost and then Mark's bench with Van der Ven on it. But how are you supposed to predict that Van der Ven is going to score 2 goals, clean sheet, defensive contributions, and 3 bonus points against Everton away? It's just one of those unfortunate situations if you have benched him, which I've looked around and quite a few managers have done that. So it's just something where you just got to take it on the chin and move on. But still, to be top 15k in the world, if you can have not a great game week and still be top 15k, you'll probably take that and then just, try and build on it in the next week and say, right, that was my bad week. Now I'm going to move forward. So it has meant that the top three in the mini league has closed in a little bit. And I'm currently placed eighth in this league as well. So I'm not a million miles behind. So into my team for Game Week 9 review and 56 points all out, which was a really good return. And I've gone up about another 70k places into the top 200k managers, which after 9 game weeks is a really good place to be. If I can be that rank still after Game Week 10, we usually say, 10 game weeks, then we just see where we're at. Then the leagues and the ranks start to settle down a little bit because it's still so close. But yeah, in the top 200k, really happy with that at this stage of the season. And how did I do it? Well, it started off in goal, and of course, Raya got another clean sheet. Really happy with him. He's not making saves, but he doesn't need to when he's getting those clean sheets every week. I would much rather have those 6 points consistently than 1 point one week and then 8 points the next week. So into defence, and again, the triple Arsenal defence, I love it. It's been great ever since I've got it in. 3 clean sheets in the last 3 games, and it's good to be sort of good vindication to kind of be proven right so far with your decision making because none of the Arsenal attackers really stood out to me, and that's been the case. And of course, if Burnley and Sunderland in the next 2 game weeks, you could absolutely see returns from Gyökeres and Saka in those games. But I just think the Arsenal defence, you would also like to think they could keep clean sheets in those fixtures as well. Senesi with 5 points was a good shout, and Mukiele on the bench, didn't get defensive contributions. Tarkowski did only get 1 point, but I felt like I started the right defenders this game week. Into midfield, and Mbumo did it for me. 15 points, and is what we've been saying. If you've been looking at the wildcard videos or the sort of undervalued players with the charts, we can see that Mbumo was really underperforming his expected goals, and therefore he was bound to eventually get some attacking returns. Now, he is probably the player you're going to see on everyone's videos all week. People talk about getting Mbumo in. Would I still get him in? Possibly. I think if you're on a wild card, he's a definite option. But I would also look for, maybe a Gakpo or a Gordon, like we talked about on the wild card video on Sunday. Players who are maybe underperforming their expected goals right now and, could perform well in the next few weeks. Because anyone can look at Mbumo's 2 goals and say, get Mbumo in. but where are the next points going to come from that other players haven't looked at yet? So the rest of the midfield wasn't great, and Mbumo really was the difference between a good game week and a not so good game week. But we take those points, and then up front there was nothing to write home about either. I did make those three transfers I spoke about last week. I got in Mukiele, I got in Enzo Fernandez and Mateta, and then I sold Gvardiol, Evan Nielsen, and Reinders, and it felt good. Man City didn't do anything. The fixtures don't look amazing from a defensive point of view, and I'm keeping hold of Haaland, and he probably will still be my captain. So yeah, hopefully you also had a good game week. Let me know in the comments how you got on. That was where I'm at, and I'm pretty pleased with it. So overall, we're going to look at the fixtures now for game week 10. And the points prediction does say Haaland once again is the best captaincy option. And I agree with that. I think he is a really good option. And again, he blanked this game week. You might look at my team and think, oh, if you captained Mbumo, you would do really well. And there were some people who did captain someone like an Mbumo, or someone captain an Eze. They didn't captain Haaland. And occasionally it pays off. But the risk to reward just isn't there. So just because Haaland's banked in this last game week, don't get too clever with it. He's still a great captaincy option, and more often than not, he will be scoring goals. The fact Man City are at home looks great. I do also like the Saka captaincy as well. I think that is a really good option this game week if you did want to go differential. I probably would stay away from Salah captaincy. I think you skip him in the rankings, and then Mateta and Saka are definitely better than Salah, in my opinion, so far for this game week. It is also interesting to see Gabriel in the top five highest predicted points again for a game week with 5.9. And, you know, it is sort of the safer route. If you think that Arsenal are going to keep a clean sheet against Burnley, then you're guaranteed 6 points on your captain already. And then if Gabriel does somehow get an attacking return, could be really big. So if you're looking for that high upside, maybe you do go Gabriel. But I definitely wouldn't advise going him over a Haaland. But if you had a Saka or a Mateta in your team, you didn't own Haaland or Salah for some reason, and you had Gabriel, I think he's an exciting captain for this game week. So into my team, and we're going to start with looking at Raya. And I do have two free transfers this game week, and we'll talk about the options in a second. But there's no way I'm transferring out Raya right now. Burnley and Sunderland, although they're both away games, I think Arsenal's defence, you would like to think they'd keep a clean sheet. And I was at peace with them not keeping a clean sheet against Crystal Palace. I was thinking, well, they've kept two clean sheets in a row. If Palace score, that's fine because they've got Burnley and Sunderland next. And now I kind of feel a bit of pressure because I'm thinking, well, they're going to probably concede now against Burnley. But you would like to think that these are the points you almost guarantee on. Like against Crystal Palace, the clean sheet points were a bonus for me because I didn't think they'd keep a clean sheet. Now with Burnley and Sunderland, you kind of were expecting them to keep a clean sheet. So you almost feel that they need to for you to have a good game week. So into defence, and of course, I'm going to start the triple Arsenal defence this game week, but I'm planning on only doing three at the back. I have started Tarkowski away at Sunderland rather than Mukiele at home to Everton. And the reason for that is I just think Tarkowski is more likely to get defensive contributions than Mukiele because Sunderland, with them being at home and doing really well, I think they'll be expected to attack. And therefore, Everton will probably sit back quite a bit, and Tarkowski will have more to do defensively than Mukiele will. So that's just the thinking behind that. And then I have got Senesi third on my bench, and he'll probably be on the bench in game week 11 as well. I'm not planning on transferring him out though, although he would free up a good amount of funds. I have got some good value tied up in him, and West Ham, Sunderland, Everton games from game week 12 to 14 just look really good, and I think there'll be some good points opportunities for Senesi there. You could make a case for starting him against Man City away because of defensive contributions and how Man City haven't scored against Aston Villa. But for me, I just think he's worth on the bench for this game week. So into midfield, and one player I am thinking of transferring out is Mohamed Kudus because he was someone that I've had since the start of the season, and the plan was to transfer him out pretty early on, after game week 3 or 4, and then I had some other issues with my forwards that I wanted to try and transfer out first, and he stayed. And he also stayed on a wild card because I thought that he's good value for the price. He is the sort of player that gets you 2 assists and then nothing for 3 weeks, and then 2 assists and nothing for 3 weeks. So he's quite a difficult player to own consistently, and the fixtures for Spurs don't look great. If I could sell Kudus for Gakpo right now, I would do it in a heartbeat if it was just a straight swap. But I don't have those funds. I'm about 500,000 short, so I am looking at where I can get that value from. And the rest of the midfield, whilst they're away from home, they do have some reasonable fixtures. I do think the Enzo Fernandez Tottenham away will be an open game. And the same for Man United with away at Nottingham Forest. Wouldn't be surprised if Mbumu scored again. The Semenyo away at Man City isn't also the worst fixture because he does do well against these sort of stronger teams on the break. So I wouldn't be surprised if Semenyo did get an attacking return this week on top. So we're looking at the strikers, and João Pedro is someone that everyone again is going to be talking about getting out. And the João Pedro to Mateta transfer is something that you're going to see a ton of, almost as much as you're probably going to see people trying to get Bumo in their teams after his 2 goals. But I already have Mateta. So the João Pedro to Mateta move doesn't necessarily, it doesn't exist for me because I went early and got Mateta in, and I'll get his value as it goes up this game week. So I don't have to shift João Pedro on. And I do like his fixtures. I think Spurs away isn't the worst fixture in the world. It's still only a London game. He's not travelling far. And then Wolves, Burnley, and Leeds in the next four. I think, well, if I don't have to sell João Pedro right now, why would I? And I do think after game week 12, there is the possibility to sell João Pedro and then upgrade Kudus to Gakpo. I think that is a really good move for me. If the fixtures were worse for João Pedro right now, I could do that. I could sell João Pedro to a Thiago, say, and then upgrade Kudus to Gakpo. I would like that move, but I just think there's no need to shoehorn João Pedro out when I already own Mateta. I'd be interested to see what you think with my strikers, but I just think they look great right now, and there's no need to force the issue. So I do have zero point 0.3 million in the bank and 2 free transfers, but I don't plan on using any transfers this game week. The team value is amazing, and the strengths of my squad right now is that it's quite a safe team. And what I mean by that is not only do I have high-owned players like Haaland, like Gabriel, I have players that a lot of other managers are trying to get in their team right now, like an Mbumo, like a Mateta. I also have Semenyo. So the safety comes from the fact that, let's say Arsenal don't keep a clean sheet. Well, not many teams are keeping clean sheets anyway, so it's not like a lot of other managers in FPL are going to get clean sheet points ahead of me. Whereas I do seem to be getting those clean sheet points ahead of them with Arsenal. So even if Arsenal do concede, it's not the end of the world. And with the highly owned players, I also think that if they don't perform like a Semenyo, like a Haaland blank, it doesn't really affect your rank because everyone else owns them as well. Whereas the players that I do own that other people haven't owned yet, like a Mbumo, say, I think these are the players that are really going to get you ahead of your rank. And he's still only 15% owned, which is kind of a differential. The weaknesses for me is I've got to be careful not to be trapped with value. And what that means is if you've owned a player for a long period of time and they've gone up in price, I mean, look at Semenyo, he's gone up 1.1 million since I got him at the start of the season. I'm never going to sell Semenyo now because not only is he a good option, I would lose a lot of value in him. So if I did want him back, it would cost me even more money and it just wouldn't be a good move. I do think value doesn't matter as much if you sell a player and you're never going to want them again. Like if I sell Kudas, I'd lose zero point 0.3 million, but I'm unlikely to want him back in. I think I'd just be able to move on from him. So the value only matters if you're going to want them back in your team. So don't get too hung up on that. But it is something that we all fall into when we've owned players for a while. I also think Pedro and Kudus, they're not necessarily weaknesses, but they are players that I am planning on moving on next. But of course, by the time I get to that game week 12 transfer plan, I'll also have more free transfers. Might also have some injuries that I might want to move on as well. So when you're planning transfers for a few game weeks' time, kind of doesn't work out like that all the time. So let me know how you did in your game weeks. Let me know what you think about my team. I'm pretty pleased with it. I feel like I'm in a good position in FPL moving forward. Go check out my latest wildcard video as well. Link will be on the screen right about now, and I will see you in the next one.